The void is not nothing. Okay. So I just want to talk about this idea of the void and what it is, and that it's not nothing. And I think that sometimes there is like a misconceptualization that the void is nothingness. It's not nothingness. And I'll get into that. And this idea that the void is nothing comes from my least favorite thing to ever talk about, which I try not to, okay? This idea that the void is nothing comes from a lack perspective. It doesn't make any sense. It's total nonsense because nothing does not exist and we are in an existing reality. Therefore, we have no access to nothing or the void, or sorry, this conceptualization of the void as nothing. We do not have access to that. We can talk about the concept of it, which in its very nature is an illusion because it's just a concept. We can talk these empty words, but we cannot actually access it. Um, and let me just talk about why I feel this is important, why this is coming up. Um, so I do believe that the void is brought up a lot in conscious creation communities and like when you're meditating, there's sometimes like this idea of like you need to go into the void. Or sometimes in your reality, in the creative process, there's this sense of like you need to enter the void now, as you create this next thing in your life or whatever. Okay. And I actually do really like the void. It is a cool concept, but it is not nothing. Okay. So yeah, I'll just tell you the void is formlessness. Okay. So it is not nothingness. It is not nothingness. It is spaciousness. We can say it's spaciousness, but even if it's empty space, it is still not nothing. So I will get into why this is important because I mean, it can sound kind of like nonsense. But if you're here, I trust that like you've come across this concept, you've worked with it to some degree, so that's probably why you're still watching. So I'm going to meander in a few directions, so bear with me. But the first thing I'll talk about is okay, the void as formlessness is very important. That is a space you want to go into in your creative process, in your metaphysical creative process. Again, it is not the space of nothing, though. And okay, so maybe what's coming through is like, why is this important? It's important because if you've ever had this confusion within yourself, which I'm speaking from a certain experience that I've had where sometimes I've been confused about the void, or I felt like, oh, I don't like the void. I want to get out of the void. And recently, I had a really deep realization of why sometimes I have that feeling. And that's because there was this slight conflation, sometimes with the void being nothing. Okay. And once I removed that conflation and misunderstanding, it was like such a deep sense of relief and clarity. And it made sense why, when I had a slight misunderstanding of the conception of the void being as nothing, why I didn't want to be in it. Okay, like a lot of people will say that you don't want to be in it because it's uncomfortable to sort of say disconnect from your humanness or your, some people will call it ego, whatever. There's a lot of ways people talk about it, but I know that for myself, the discomfort was in the lie that it's nothing. Okay, because it's the bad feeling, the discomfort was coming from the contradiction of like somewhere on some level me telling myself that I'm in the nothing, which that is from the never ending story, right? They talk about the nothing and how scared everyone is of the nothing coming. I haven't watched the movie in a while, but I know that that's in there. I don't remember the full context. I'm sure there's so much more to dig into in there. But the void is not the nothing. It is formlessness, which means it is everything that exists, all of the particles of creation, but it is disassembled. Okay? It is disassembled with no form, but it is not nothing. Some people will say that the void is everything and nothing. No, nothing is not part of it. Nothing is not part of our experience. We cannot experience nothing because we are infinite existing beings. Like existence is our very essence. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation. If you feel like you do not exist, that's a level that I cannot help you with because that is actual insanity. If you believe that you don't exist, like if what I'm saying is like doesn't make sense, isn't hitting with you, like you necessarily exist, that is the corest, fundamental part of your essence. That's why we say I am. That is your fundamental essence. I am. I exist is another way of saying I am, right? So let that let that sink in for a moment. I am is the same thing as saying I exist. And now going back to this idea of formlessness, formlessness doesn't mean you do not exist. Formlessness is really going deep into the I am, but the I am as you, as everything. Yes, you are dissolved, but you are everything. You are disassembled, but you still exist. But you have now opened up the space of infinite potential and possibility. But it is not nothing. Okay? Yes, infinite spaciousness and possibility. It is not nothing. So I want to just bring that back. This is important because, like I just said earlier, I'm just going to repeat it. I know that when I had that slight little sort of idea that the void is everything and nothing, and that little nothing was in there, sometimes it would make me feel so squished and uncomfortable and just like, again, like never ending story, like, oh no, it's the nothing. I need to get out of the nothing. Now that I have that clarity, I do like going into the void feels so good. It does not feel, there's no contradiction in it, and it doesn't feel bad. It just feels like I am dissolved into everything, into pure formlessness, pure potential, and it feels incredible to be pure potential when there isn't that lingering weirdness about the nothing. It's gone. Okay. So that's what I wanted to share about that. That's what's coming through. Um, End rant, I guess. I don't think there's anything more to say other than I intend to share this with you so that if you've ever felt that discomfort and that, yeah, that sort of, I don't know, icky feeling around the void as the nothing, you can leave that behind and know that that's a lie. It's not true. That's why it didn't feel good. The truth is that the void is just formlessness. And so, as you talk about yourself, say in human form, some people will call this the ego. I don't really like that word and phrasing because there's way too much judgy, weird crap around it. So, you can just delete that concept and not even deal with it. Somebody just made that up one day and you could just unmake it. You don't need to deal with it. But and it's much more simple than that. It's like our human individual form, like me as Joanna, as like this avatar, let's call it. That's just me. all that I am coming into focus, into form, right? And I really enjoy coming into form. I love being in form. It feels so good. Formlessness, though, once there's no confusion about the nothing, feels so good too. That is the feeling of the I am. That is the infinite I am. That is all that is. It's you as infinite potential. And then you can always come back into form, go back into formlessness. You can move in and out of that experience of yourself through your awareness and your consciousness. And they both should feel amazing. Yeah, they should both feel amazing. And yeah, okay. I think that's it. That's it. If there's any thoughts, comments, or questions about that, let me know.